of the high school football regular season here, or actually the Section 6 regular season is here. I'm joined by Tom Prince. I'm Francis Beck. And this is Western New York High School Football Weekly, where we talk about the top games of the week, the top performances of the week, and so much more. Tom, we had a fantastic Week 7, and it's going to set up for a pretty interesting Week 8.
We have a lot of playoff scenarios starting to play itself out right now, which is great. This is what it is. This is playoff
This is my favorite time.
Right? You got to get pumped. In fact, Francis and I right now, we're finalizing what could be our biggest show ever for playoffs, right? I mean, if this really comes to fruition, what we're talking about, boy, we're going to be talking to a bunch of some of the top athletes here in Western New York.
And you'll get a first exclusive look of what the brackets probably will look like, playoff brackets will look like as well.
I can't wait. I'm excited. I really am. But, I mean, let's kick things off, right? The first game we're going to talk about was the game I was actually at, Lancaster Orchard Park. What a game. And I'm going to flat out tell you, if you haven't seen this kid, you better get out and see him. Micah Harry is the real deal, folks. This kid is incredible at running back. Two big plays that you can really circle right there that happened. One, Micah Harry gets a swing pass right to the outside, broke at least 3-4 tackles. He goes about 50 yards. I don't have the exact yardage on it, but about 50 yards, he takes it right into the end zone. That really kicked things off for Lancaster, and you can see it. And then he seals the deal with a 40-yard run, breaking some tackles. He gets to the outside, cuts it back to the middle, does a great job for a 40-yard run right there, and that was 14 of the points right there that came from Micah Harry. The other ones come from big defensive plays by the Lancaster defense. That's the next thing you got to talk about, right? That Lancaster defense, we've said it and we've said it again. There's a reason why they're so good, right? Coach Manziel, I know how good you are as a coach, right? You proved it again. This defense is a team defense. It really is. They did a phenomenal job. Also want to give some credit out there to the Orchard Park side. I thought Dylan Evans was absolutely phenomenal. Has over 180 yards receiving. He had the helmet catch, which we're going to talk about. Eli Manning's got to watch out for that one. We're going to get a chance to let you guys see that catch too. He was phenomenal. He really was. Where he was going up after everyone to the point where they really were trying to get the ball in his hands. Couple key injuries right there. I thought Simon Boncaldo had a great game on the defensive side for Orchard Park. You know, be a homer for Dad. I thought Luke Prince had one hell of a game on the line as well as defense. 5.5 tackles at the defensive tackle spot. I thought he did a great job himself, and I thought those were some of the big leaders there for Orchard Park. But Lancaster, give them credit. There's a reason they're as good as they are. That coaching staff is unbelievable. And 2 defensive stops, one that was taken to the house. That's really the difference right there. Give Lancaster tons of credit. They're now the number 1 seed going into the playoffs. So great job for Lancaster. It was a great game. Really was. Great game. 14-14 going into the fourth quarter.
So Lancaster faces, obviously, Depew next week. Big rivalry. And then they get a week off before they host the semifinals.
And everyone in Double A gets a week off.
Yes, everybody in Double A.
And that things aren't shaped up fully there, right? Orchard Park has to beat Niagara Falls, and Bennett's got to beat Hutch Tech. For it to come out, 1 seed Lancaster, 2 seed Orchard Park, 3 seed Bennett, 4 seed Niagara Falls. Now, a lot of things can still change. If Niagara Falls or Hutch Tech win, it throws a tizzy into the whole playoff.
But I do think, though, Niagara Falls needs to win by a hefty margin in order to really mess things up, per se. So, granted, I think Orchard Park is most likely going to win that game. I don't see it coming down to points or anything, but Niagara Falls needs to win by a hefty margin in order to really shake things up.
Yep, 100%. But it's not over in the sense of, and teams can absolutely still play into their destiny right there. So let's go on to the second game.
All right, next game is the upset, I think, probably the upset of the week. And it was Thursday night under the radar. It was the Grand Island Vikings getting their second win of the season. They beat Starpoint 19-14. The Vikings jumped out to a 13-0 lead in the first quarter. Starpoint stormed back and they took a 14-13 lead at the half, but the two teams went back and forth, and then Grand Island puts up a touchdown in the fourth quarter to pick up the win. Starpoint was on the road to sneaking into the playoffs as a 7th or 8th seed. This knocks them out, and this pretty much it put Amherst into third place pretty much in this A3 division, but a 3-loss team probably isn't going to make it in that 7-8 seed. So the big winners out of this are whoever comes up as the third place team in the A1 division, which could be either Williamsville North, Clarence, or even Jamestown, believe it or not. So they get a big win on that one. So upset there for Grand Island. Shakes things up in Class A.
We talked about Starpoint being on the upset of both sides of the spectrum as the biggest upset, right? We talked about them with a huge game. They have the win over Maritime, and now you flip it here with the loss to Grand Island. But no doubt was one of the surprises that we saw so far when you just look at records. You know what I mean? That you thought about. But the next game, listen, this you could call an upset too, because it gave McKinley their first loss, but Hamburg with their big win over McKinley. But listen, we've been talking about Hamburg for a while, right? I'm telling you, they're going to be in this. They're going to have a say in this, and they actually do have a say in this, where they win 22-14 over McKinley, led by their quarterback Jeffrey Lavelle. He threw for 99 yards and a touchdown, but he ran for 97 yards and a touchdown. Also, Jake Heldwine carried the ball 8 carries, 71 yards, and a touchdown. Emmett Reeder, 2 receptions, 60 yards, and a touchdown through the air. Aiden Matthias had 8.5 tackles and a sack in this one. And Ethan Lienhard, 5.5 tackles and an interception to lead the Hamburg way. Azariad Nagwe threw the ball for 60 yards in this one. He also carried the ball for 65. Nikar Lewis carries the ball 4 carries, 76 yards, and a touchdown for McKinley. On the defensive side of the ball, Nigel McDuffie, 7.5 tackles. Boy, it doesn't matter what team. We hear that name constantly, leading the way in something. And Lewis also has 8 tackles in this one, and Darian Burt with 7 tackles. And Adunage also with 7 tackles himself. Jameer Patrick with 8 tackles. You can see the McKinley defense was absolutely there. But this is a big win for Hamburg, and also really muddies the waters right now for McKinley, because we don't know.
Not just McKinley.
Oh yeah,
it
a lot of teams.
West Seneca West really is the team that. So if McKinley would have won, A2 would have been all set with McKinley at 1, Kenmore West at 2, West Seneca West at 3, with a good shot of getting either that 7th or 8th seed overall in the playoffs. But we're going to talk about it more in the third segment, our Thursday night game. But right now you have Kenmore West has a playoff spot, but they're not sure exactly where they're going to fall. Right now, West Seneca West is teetering, and they don't have any league games left, so they're teetering, and they're just watching on Thursday night. But we'll talk about that.
And Will East in the mix in there too.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. Will East in that mix too. So our next game, we're going to jump over to A1. Game with had big playoff implications. It was Williamsville North getting the 35-17 win over Clarence. Battle of 2 of the top 3 teams in Class A1. Williamsville North got going early, took the 7-0 lead. They had a 13-3 lead at the half and pretty much ran away from it from there. Mitch Kelly, 6 for 18, 118 yards through the air. He also ran for 94 yards and a touchdown. And he had Kendall Donovan. We know his speed. 14 carries, 109 yards, 2 TDs. So it was definitely a big day for the Spartans. They get the win, and they're even lined up a chance if they take care of business and some things go their way, they could even get the number 1 seed in Class A1.
Will North, I got a chance to see them up and close, right? That defense, that line is really a very good line, and we knew was going to keep them in a game. Really, it was just going to be able to see is which strength was going to come out, and Will North comes up big in that one. There's no doubt about it. So the next game we're going to go to, which is a battle of the heavyweights right inside the B division, Iroquois versus West Seneca East. Iroquois with the win, 32-8. West Seneca East comes out early, 8-0. Iroquois then doesn't look behind, puts up 20 unanswered points right there to lead 20-8, and actually all 32 become unanswered because the final does become 32-8 in this one, led by their quarterback Justice Kleiss, 206 yards. 15 for 18, 206 yards and 2 touchdowns. Folks, this kid's a freshman. Look at how poised he is already as a freshman. Do you realize what we're in store for the next 4 years with this one?
He's probably going to be going after some records.
Records. We're going to watch a kid. Look at how poised he is.
Yeah.
This is a freshman leading an undefeated team right now, throwing for 200 yards, 250. It doesn't matter what it is. This kid's putting up unbelievable numbers. Western New York, this Justice Kleiss is for real. I don't care how old he is. I don't care that he's a freshman. He's proven he can do it on the basketball court. He's proven he can do it on the football field. This kid's the real deal. I'm telling, watch out, Western New York. We got something to watch over the next 4 years with him. And then Trevor Berry, another one for this team. 18 carries, 146 yards, 3 touchdowns in this one. Again, it doesn't matter. They can do it by the run. They can do it by the air. We've seen how Trevor Berry's doing it as a sophomore. Then he comes into this. He is just a bruising back that really can do just about anything that you ask him. Oh, and then, by the way, we got Nate McGoldrick out there by the wide receiver, right? 5 receptions, 76 yards, and a touchdown for him. Matt Mercurio leads the way on the defense with 9 tackles. Tom McNulty joins him with 7, and Gavin Dundon has 7 tackles for this one. West Seneca East is led by Mike Hayes, 21 carries for 60 yards on the ground. He throws for 33 yards himself. Charlie Rosado also carries the ball for 41 carries and a touchdown in this one. And then Damani Blake leads the defense with 9 tackles. Mike Kwiatkowski, 5.5 tackles in this one, as Iroquois hasn't had a close game yet.
Nope.
They really haven't had a close game yet.
Yep, they clinched the number 1 seed in their division with that. They haven't had a close game at all. No matter who they've faced, they've beaten by at least 30 points or so. The only downside of that is your team hasn't really faced adversity, but whoever they've had in front of them, they've taken care of business.
And it's been a total team effort. And I'll tell you, the biggest change to me from last year to this year is that line, and they're showing they are giving Kleiss the time. They are opening the holes for Berry. It's that line, to me, that is the biggest difference from last year to this year with Iroquois and why they're doing as good as they are.
And if we step back in time, we look at the previous 2 championship teams in Class B, it was, on the line at the trenches where they lost the battle. They didn't have the big guys to go up against Maritime. We know Maritime's now in A, and you see Iroquois has improved their line. I think they're the favorite going into the playoffs.
Oh, I think you have to say that, but that doesn't mean there aren't good teams out there, everybody. But I'm not disagreeing with you, Francis. I get it. And you'd have to be crazy not to say that at this point, right? But that's why you play the games, is what everyone will say out there, right? But no doubt, folks, go take a look at this Iroquois team. They are for real, top to bottom, full team is what it is.
All right, we're going to jump back to Class A. We had a bit of a barn burner at Williamsville South. It was the Sparks coming out victorious, 32-27. South actually had a lead in this game in the 4th quarter, but the Sparks come away with the win. Noah Willoughby, 13 of 22, 47, 4 touchdowns, leading the way on the ground. It was Brandon Simmons-Bragg for the Sparks. He had 121 yards and a touchdown. Willoughby's counterpart, Overcamp, almost matched him. He did match him, 17 or 32, 47 yards, 2 touchdowns. Leading the way on the ground was Jackson Hewson. South had a lead in this game. Gave the Sparks everything they had, but South Park comes away with the victory. Fortunately for the Billies, they are out of the playoff run, and we'll talk about it later, the Sparks are definitely in line to get the number 1 seed in Class A overall.
You are absolutely right. Over camp yards was right there with Willoughby. Want to know the difference?
Interceptions.
Two more touchdowns by Willoughby.
Oh, that's right. No, they both had an interception. I'm wrong. 2 more touchdowns.
Touchdowns by Willoughby. That's your difference right there. That's what's going to throw South Park over the edge. And Willoughby just finds the end zone all the time. Finds a way to get there. And you know what he does? He spreads the wealth too. Because we're going to be talking about later when we do the individual stats, there are 2 South Park guys that are on the receiving end. That means it ain't going to one receiver right there. He's spreading the wealth. He's making sure that ball's moving around the field. Congratulations, that South Park's going to be a tough out themselves.
Tom, we had a game come down to the wire in Class D. Why don't you tell us about it?
Listen. Forget it. Throw out any records, throw it all away. A CSP Franklinville-Ellicottville game is unbelievable and will be one of the games of the week. It comes down where it was back and forth. I was doing the scores actually on air when I was calling the St. Francis St. Joe's game. And we're going on the air and I'm going, CSP's got the lead. Oh, wait, Franklinville-Ellicottville's got the lead. It was back and forth. Think about this. The end of Q1, 7-6. The end of Q2, 10-6. The end of Q3, it's 16-14. And then at the end of the game, it's 22-20. And guess what? We've got a game-winning field goal in this one. We're even going to show you the video of it today where we're going to get a chance to go through this. But listen, Hinsdale is probably right now, to me, one of the guys that is not talked enough about in Western New York. I don't care if it's a D class or whatever it is, but Bryce Hindale, as a sophomore, is right now number 2 in yards in all of Section 6. He's been doing it. He's been showing it. And then, oh, by the way, he could go kick field goals to boot. In fact, I don't know about you, but I've seen pictures and video of this kid getting goalposts for Christmas. And out there since he's been a little guy, just being out kicking field goals. And how does it help? Because of what he does in this one as he kicks the game-winning field goal for CSP. But
I also heard he also broke a record for receptions in a game.
17 receptions he has in this one for 148 yards and 2 touchdowns. Just unbelievable. The quarterback from CSP, Tate Catanese, 245 yards, 2 touchdowns, both of those 2 touchdowns to Hinsdale. He also carries the ball for 52 yards. He accounts for almost 300 yards himself in this one. Trent Burchanowski also has 11 carries for 17 yards in this one. Gabe Roth, 3 receptions, 68 yards. Drake DiDomenico, 7 tackles in this one to lead CSP. Flip it on the other side. Don't think it was a bad day over there. Franklinville-Ellicottville, Gian Nuzzo goes 21 carries for 123 yards. He's your starting quarterback. He also throws the ball for 41 yards. Hunter Smith carries it for 6 carries and 89 yards and a touchdown. In this one, Hunter Smith leads the way in the defense with 8.5 tackles. Isaac Towns, 6 tackles and a sack also for that Franklinville-Ellicottville team. Man, it doesn't matter what it is, whether they meet at the stadium, whether they meet somewhere in the grass of Clymer or Sherman or Panama, right, or Franklinville-Ellicottville, right, or I should say, or Franklinville, or Ellicottville is really how I should word that, right? It doesn't matter where it is, this is going to be a game. And again, it proves to be exactly that. This whole D class now a little muddied in the water, and still with a big game next week, which we're going to talk about, which is Portville and Randolph, which things can get really interesting.
Yeah, and just to preview, just to a little heads up for that, this win here by CSP, at least if things go their way, they can now jump to the 3 seed instead of being the 4 seed if things work out the way that they hope. So that's where it comes in the line for playoffs, is if a certain scenario breaks out, they can get the 3 seed.
So there you go. I think it's the end of segment 1 right there.
Yeah, so that'll wrap it up for our first segment. Coming up next, we're going to talk about the best performances of Week 7. We have a ton of them. That's coming up on Western New York High School Football Weekly, Week 7 edition.
Our homes have become offices, gyms, schools, and playgrounds. And at Western New York Immediate Care, we know you may need us now more than ever. Whether you've suffered a minor injury or just aren't feeling well, Western New York Immediate Care physicians are trained to diagnose and treat most non-life-threatening injuries and illnesses. With 5 convenient locations open 7 days a week, help is never far away. Life has changed, but Western New York Immediate Care is still here for you.
I love being home.
There's nothing better than owning the perfect house to come home to. You've earned it, and we'll make it happen. Our local real estate experts and in-house team of financial professionals make buying or selling your home simple. Howard Hanna. Home happens here.
I love being home.
Welcome back to Western New York High School Football Weekly. Francis Beck, Tom Prince here, and we're going to talk about some of the best performances of week 7. And we probably got at least 40 players we're going to recognize.
About that.
All right.
But this is what it's all about, right?
Yes.
These kids deserve to be recognized, and we're giving them that format to do it. We're also going to show the Conley Cup, the Trench Trophy, which other organizations went out and recognized. Please remember, Western New York Athletics does not do the Conley Cup. It is not us.
Or Trench Trophy.
Yeah, or Trench Trophy. We go ahead and put those out on behalf of those organizations. And please remember, the Conley Cup will be putting out a top 10 for their finalists. That happens
that's after the stadium.
Yep, it's after the stadium. Nothing to do with us. It will be a top 10. Same thing with the Trench Trophy. Difference is Conley Cup, you can be any grade for the Conley Cup to be able to make a finalist. Trench Trophy, you can only be a senior to get the top 10 finalists. But they do have a special junior award where they will bring in some juniors and award them at the same time also.
All right, so the Connolly Cup Week 7 Players of the Week. Carson Bain from Jamestown, Trevor Berry, Iroquois, Xander Fletcher, Niagara Wakefield, Micah Harry, Lancaster, Justice Hill, Maryvale, Bryce Hinsdale, no surprise, from CSP, Amarian Holt, Kenmore West, Amari Jones, Albion, his brother Javon Jones from Albion, Ricardo Kidd, St. Francis, Caleb Nichols, Amherst, Demarius Pettyway Scarver, Bishop Timon, Aiden Pitts, Medina, Nanny Rivera, South Park, and Kyle Stover from Pioneer.
So now we're going to do the Trench Trophy candidates right now, Week 7. Chris Bargy for Olean, Aiden Dubeck for St. Francis, Miles Graves with Williamsville South, Jeremy Kules from Depew, Sean Mesmer from Grand Island, Nick Rader from Albion, and Ollie Wilson from Medina. So obviously our producer gave everybody a little tease as to what we're going to do right here. So we do have some highlights that we're going to show everybody.
We have a couple.
So you're going to see, you got a tease of it up on there, on the one there that our producer gave away. So why don't we just tell everybody who they're going to come from so we could let everybody know what they're coming. So we've got 5 highlight packages that you're going to see. One of them is Amari Jones for Albion. We've got 2 highlights from him from our game in their East Aurora Holland game. We got one from his brother Javon Jones, right, that you can see there are 2 highlights coming from him. We've got the helmet catch that we've talked about so far from Dylan Evans out of Orchard Park. We've got another fabulous catch coming from Cole Anastasia out of Olean, a one-handed catch in the end zone for Olean against Maryvale. And then the last one is you'll see a couple catches as well as the game-winning field goal that was kicked by Bryce Hinsdale. So you can see as we've got some big ones still to come. So when we get to their names when we're going to highlight, you'll see some highlights coming out for them at the same exact time.
All right, on that note, why don't we get started? So our leading rusher from Week 7 was, no surprise, Xander Hine of Randolph. He carried the ball 8 times, got 236 yards. For those of you trying to do the math at home, he averaged 29.5 yards a carry. Longest run was 79 yards. He had 5 TDs as well.
8 carries, 5 touchdowns, over 200 yards. Say, you're the man. You're the man. No doubt about it. You are the man. He's just showing it again. So now we're going to go out to Kenmore West for Jermaine Atkins, the wide receiver / running back / defense / this. He can do everything out there, right? We've also seen him play quarterback out there at the same time because he runs the Wildcat out of it. But Jermaine Atkins against North Tonawanda goes for 230 yards and 3 touchdowns. He carries the ball 18 times for a 12.8 yards per carry in this one.
All right, when we talk about Jamestown, everybody knows about Trey Drake. What about Carson Bain? He rushed for a season high this past week, 224 yards on 19 carries, got 3 touchdowns as the Red Raiders traveled up to Niagara Wheatfield and picked up the 57-26 win. That's Carson Bain from Jamestown.
Here's a kid we have not talked about a lot. I'll tell you this, right? He has not gotten some of the recognition that he deserves out here, but it's Cole Barber out of Frontier. He actually goes for 209 yards in this one and 4 touchdowns in the win for Frontier over Lockport, 34-20. But again, Cole Barber with a fantastic day, 209 yards.
All right, we're going to head up to Wilson. The Lakemen clinched the 5 seed in the Class D division behind the back of Jack Mahar. He had 182 yards in this one to lead the Lakemen to, again, that 5 seed in Class D.
So I apologize. The one I got to pull up here. Another one is coming from St. Mary's.
Yeah, that would be Johnson. Trying to find the.
I got it. It's coming up right here. I apologize right there. It's Marcus Johnson, who runs the ball for 18 carries for 178 yards, 9.9 yards per carry, 51 for the long, 3 touchdowns as Marcus Johnson helps St. Mary's to the win over the varsity opponent out of Canada.
All right. Well, we pick up the next one. I'm going to go a little bit out of order. Quintier Nealand from Dunkirk. We've mentioned his name a couple times on this show. He rushes for a career-high 153 yards against Cheektowaga in a 42-21 loss to the Warriors.
So the next one, we're going to go back to Monsignor Martin to Bishop Timon. We've got, it is Damaris Petaway Scarver. He's got the hyphenated name in this one, but he actually goes for, in this one, against Cardinal O'Hara as they won 42-8. He goes for 154 yards in this one, 2 touchdowns, and he averages 19.3 yards a carry for in those 154 yards. Again, another one with only 8 carries in that game.
All right, Maryvale, the Flyers clinched the number 1 seed in large part thanks to a 35 to Justice Hill, who ran for 148 yards and a touchdown in a 35-19 win over the Olean Huskies. We'll talk more about Maryvale's next game coming up in our next segment.
Next one is we go to Iroquois. We've talked about him, Trevor Berry. He runs for 146 yards, 3 touchdowns, leading Iroquois to a 32-8 victory over West Seneca East.
All right, next we're going to head up to Medina, and the Mustangs put on an absolute. Oh, that was last week. Noah Skinner ran for 140 yards and 1 touchdown as the Mustangs beat Akron 38-14. They clinch not only the C North division, but they also clinch the number 1 seed in the Class C playoffs.
Next, we go back to Lancaster. We talked about him already. Micah Harry, 28 carries, 125 yards, and a touchdown on the ground. Then received the ball 4 times for 83 yards and a touchdown in this one as Lancaster defeats Orchard Park 30-14.
All right, we're going to head to St. Francis, and Ricardo Kidd led the way for Franny's as they defeated St. Joe's 22-0. He had all 3 touchdowns in this one. I'm going to try to see what the final yardage was for him.
120 something.
121 yards and 3 touchdowns for Ricardo Kidd. Led the way for St. Francis. They have Canisius coming up this week. First place in Monsignor Martin A on the line. That means a bye and a home game for the winner of that one. And our next player is out of Alden, a kid we've been, Tom's trying to pull up his thing right now. Kid we've been talking about, kind of flying under the radar for the Bulldogs. Their top player,
Alexander Whitepidge, and he actually runs the ball for 119 yards, 3 touchdowns in the 41-8 victory over Springville in this one.
all right, the Warriors had a game they needed to win, and they did, in large part thanks to their running back, Cameron Warburton. He has 109 yards and 3 touchdowns in that 42-21 win over the Dunkirk Marauders.
Next one, we're going to go to Cleveland Hill as Larry Burgeon comes up again on our list. He runs the ball for only 66 yards, but he's got 3 touchdowns as he's effective in the 38-8 win for Cleveland Hill over Tonawanda.
All right, our final running back is Dalton Caldwell. He only ran for 36 yards, but got 3 touchdowns in the Falconers' 42-7 win over Silver Creek Forestville. They are in line, if things go their way, to get the number 2 seed in B2, but again, that's not set in stone, as you'll find out in the next segment.
So now we're going to go to the quarterbacks. We're going to start down in Fredonia. Ethan Fry has a game as they win 35-8 over Chautauqua Lake Westfield Brockton. He throws the ball for 97 yards and 2 touchdowns, but he runs the ball for 97 yards and 2 touchdowns, and he throws the ball for 327 yards and 3 touchdowns as he accounts for 5 of those touchdowns for Fredonia.
All right, our next quarterback is Aiden Pitts from Medina, quietly having a fantastic season. He threw for 236 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he ran for another touchdown in that 38-14 win over Akron.
The next one is we're going to go this time over to Orchard Park. It's Ben Gasella as Ben actually throws 4 in this one. 263 yards and 2 touchdowns in the loss to Lancaster.
All right, next we're going to head out to Lackawanna. Steelers taking care of business as the Class C Central champions. Geschel threw for 247 yards, 5 touchdowns. He also ran for 20 yards, too, in the 40-14 win over Newfane.
And the next one, we go to the number 1 passer in yards right now in Western New York and Section 6. It's Noah Willoughby as he throws for 247 yards and 4 touchdowns in the 32-27 win over Williamsville South.
All right, and speaking of Williamsville South, Willoughby's counterpart, Keenan Overcamp, also threw for 247 yards, 2 touchdowns, and did he have any catches? No, he didn't have any catches, but still a great performance from the pocket in that 32-27 loss to the Sparks.
We talked about this gentleman, Tate Catanese, as he does it for CSP. In the win, 22-20 over Franklinville-Ellicottville. He throws for 245 yards and 2 touchdowns in this one, and then also carries the ball for 52 yards as he leads the way for CSP.
All right, we talked about Justice Kleitz, a freshman, having a great season. How about Joe Mest, freshman quarterback for Olean? He threw for a season-high 223 yards in a 35-19 loss to Maryville. So an impressive effort, and of course, unfortunately ends in a loss, but still impressive nonetheless.
Now we're going to go to Clarence, and we're going to recognize Dylan Reifenberg as he actually comes up big In the loss, though, to Williamsville North, they lose 35-17. He runs the ball for 38 yards, but he passes the ball for 216 yards and a touchdown in that loss to Williamsville North.
All right, we know he can pass it on the hardwood. He can also pass it on the gridiron. That's Xander Fletcher from Niagara Wheatfield. He threw for 211 yards, 3 touchdowns. He also ran for 65 yards and a touchdown in that 57-26 loss to Jamestown.
Western New York, I think I'm rubbing off on them a little bit. What do you think? So let's go back right now, as now we're going to go down to Jamestown, recognize our Division I commit, Trey Drake, as he throws the ball 4 in this one, 158 yards and a touchdown. He also runs the ball for 20 more and 2 touchdowns, as he adds 3 touchdowns in the 57-26 win over Niagara Wheatfield.
All right, next we're going to head out to Alden, talk about Lane Chakorowitz. He he ran for 171 yards and 2 touchdowns in a 41-8 win over Springville.
Now we're going to go down to Pioneer. We're going to recognize Kyle Stover in this one. He only had to throw the ball twice. He throws for 80 yards. Both those were 2 touchdowns as far as passing goes. And then he runs the ball for 133 yards in this one. You can see he can run, and when he needs to, he will throw the ball, as Pioneer wins 44-0 over Lakeshore.
All right, Thursday night we went down to East Aurora Holland, where you can see this man here, Amari Jones, the dual threat out of Albion. He led his team to a 50-8 win over East Aurora Holland. He was 5 for 18, 91 yards through the air, but he really did his damage on the ground. 84 yards and 1 touchdown for the senior Amari Jones.
I'm going to tell you what may be even more, folks.
Look at him run there. Like, nobody can catch him.
That's an interception right there. That's off the interception. He may be one of the top 2-way players here in Western New York. And I say one of the top. We've got a lot of them. I don't want to forget a lot of guys, but he will absolutely play at the next level. I won't even be surprised if it's on the defensive side of the ball. But I'll tell you, folks, he's legit, and he does it on both sides. You don't see many quarterbacks really getting their nose into it as much as he is. He really is one of the top athletes in Western New York.
All right, Tom, why don't you round out our quarterbacks?
So we're going to go down to Randolph on this one, as we're going to recognize Maddox Isaac in this one, as he only needs to throw the ball 5 times. He's got 4 completions for 65 yards and 2 touchdowns. He just was as effective as they come, ran the ball 5 yards, a touchdown. He didn't need the yards, but he got the touchdowns, and he needs to be recognized for putting it in the end zone 3 times.
All right, we're going to move on to our wide receivers. We're about to show you some amazing catches, starting with Mr. Dylan Evans. We talked about that Lancaster OP game. Dylan Evans had 186 yards, including this fantastic catch where I think he rolled it off his helmet and then beats about 3 defenders. I want to pull this up, 186 yards on 12 catches and 2 touchdowns. Fantastic one for Dylan Evans.
I was standing right in front of that play, right? It was good defense. The defender was right there, tips it off the defender. And it literally, he pins it in the side of his helmet
like
right
his
there.
ear hole.
Literally pins it right there. And then has to somehow, as he's running, move it to the front of him to bring it down. It was an amazing catch. Listen, David Tyree, I should have tagged him into it. I tagged Eli Manning into it because that's all he talked about is the helmet catch. But I'll tell you, Dylan, you were amazing in this game. There was another catch that he also catches, his second one in the end zone, where he goes up into traffic, up over everybody, brings it down. There were 2 amazing catches that were out there, which is why I said I do want to make sure Dylan Evans gets some credit in this one, because he really did everything he could in this one. But you could see it. Look at the defense of Lancaster. It just shows, how good they were. But Dylan Evans, I'm telling you, folks, He's the real deal, especially when it comes to one of our top receivers here in Western New York. Dylan, man, I'm going to remember that catch for a long time. There's no doubt about it. So the next one is another one, we've been sitting here talking about, and it's Bryce Hindale. Bryce literally in this one breaks the record for how many receptions. So he receives it for 17 times, 148 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And then he also has in this one, he's got two different field goals is what he has in this one.
And 2 PATs. I think he might have accounted for every single point.
Well, they have 3 field goals made in this one.
So 2 touchdowns, 3 field goals. I think the
that's
math
it.
works
Yeah,
out. So he accounted
yeah.
for every single point.
He did. Every single point came from him. And you saw right there is there were 2 of his catches they showed in there, and then you saw the game-winning field goal that just played out there. But I'll tell you, this kid is only a sophomore. He's only a sophomore. I'm telling you, folks, watch out what this kid's going to do. We've been talking about, you talked about it with Justice Kleiss. Another one here with Hinsdale who's he did it last year as a freshman. You know what I mean? It was a freshman last year, and he's doing it again as a sophomore. And this Catanese / Hinsdale combo, we still get for another 2 more years. But watch out, Western New York. This is going to be a combo. We're going to hear about breaking some records.
All right, next we're going to go to the man of the Peoples. That's Daniel Peoples from Williamsville South. We talked about their tough loss to South Park. He was the leading receiver. He had 9 catches, 145 yards, and 2 TDs in that one for Daniel Peoples.
So the next one is we're going to go back to the film right here. This I saw on Facebook for the first time. Watch this catch, folks. Here is your best Odell Beckham Jr. catch that we've seen. One hand in the end zone. You see Anastasia reach his hand out, bring it into the body, hold it there, and he has a great catch right there. Unfortunately, an only-in loss right there. But, boy, what a great catch there by Cade Anastasia. Cade was just unbelievable in this one. Cade actually puts up his actual numbers: 5 receptions, 136 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Cade, I'm telling you, that was an amazing catch right out there, and you can see it right there, folks, how good of a catch that was for Cade. Great job right there.
All right, our next receiver comes from Lackawanna. I'm trying to pull up his stats here. Having trouble pulling up on the website. Did you find it from a different spot, Tom?
No, it's Alexander Hall is why you're probably not able to pull it up.
Kingston?
No. Yes, Kingston Alexander Hall. That's him. Oh, why did I... All the stats are gone. What?
It appears we have some missing stats here, but I'm sure Kingston Alexander Hall had a great game. We talked about
I had 100 yards
Billy
for
Geschel.
him.
Yeah, you had 100 yards for him, I believe, earlier. In our previous research earlier, as we prepare for the show.
Yeah, Alexander Hall for 104 yards and 2 touchdowns is what I have, but all of a sudden I don't see any stats whatsoever, really. So I apologize. I don't know what happened.
All right. Nevertheless, we're going to move on. We're going to get Tote to South Park. We talked about the game Willoughby had. His receivers also had a great game. Let me bring it up this way. Oh, Nanny Rivera from South Park. He put up a fantastic performance. 123 yards off of 5 catches, 2 touchdowns in that win over the Billies.
Ashlyn Alexander Hall is who it is. Ashlyn Alexander Hall, 4 receptions for 104 yards and 2 touchdowns for Lackawanna.
Okay, there we go. That must have, I don't know why it didn't show up, but anyways, we got it in. So it's Ashton, not Kingston, although I'm sure Kingston still had a great game. I know he's been doing a lot for that Lackawanna team.
So now we're going to go down to Jamestown, and we're going to recognize Darius Freeney, as he actually has 6 receptions for 110 yards and 1 touchdown, as Jamestown defeats Niagara Wheatfield 57-26.
All right, we're going to head back to South Park. Second receiver from the Sparks is Giovanni Pagan. He had a fantastic game. He caught 6 catches. He had made 6 catches, 92 yards, and 2 touchdowns as well for the Sparks.
And our last one, and again, we've got film on him, right, is the brother, Javon Jones. So Javon actually has 5 receptions, 91 yards, and 2 touchdowns, and carries the ball 7 times for 194 yards and 2 touchdowns. Look at some of these that you're seeing right here. He was just knifing through. Here's the pitch, right? Watch the run. Breaks right there, barely untouched right there. Look at the moves, the cuts that he makes. He gets it over.
Still got 2 more guys.
Still, 3 guys, 4 guys following him. And you can see here is the second touchdown. You can see him get in. Javon Jones had a day right here, and you can see some of the running right there from Javon Jones. So that was awesome. We got a chance to see a couple big highlights right there. So, from Anastasia to Hinsdale to Evans to Jones right there. Just some great recognition, and we're going to see if we can keep getting some more of those video highlights added into what we're doing.
Yep, as we get ready for the playoffs, obviously final week of the regular season coming up. So coming up on our show, we're going to talk about the biggest games of Week 8, a couple of rivalries, and the games with the most playoff implications on the line. That's coming up.
Freak of the Week, too.
Oh, and Freak of the Week.
I can't forget that.
Yeah, the freakiest award in high school football. You're watching Western New York High School Football Weekly on WNY Athletics.
Western New York Immediate Care's new locations are now open. Whether you've suffered a minor injury or just aren't feeling well, Western New York Immediate Care provides safe, quick, high-quality care at an affordable cost. Our clinicians are trained to diagnose and treat non-life-threatening injuries and illnesses and are equipped with on-site x-ray and labs to help you feel better, faster. With 4 convenient locations open 7 days a week, Western New York Immediate Care is here to help when and where you need us. Visit us online to learn more.
Logistics Plus is a global transportation provider headquartered in Erie, PA, with locations worldwide, including right here in Western New York. Logistics Plus is consistently recognized as a fast-growing transportation and logistics company, great supply chain partner, top freight broker, leading project cargo manager, and a great place to work. With a strong passion for excellence, our 500-plus employees put the plus in logistics. Call our Buffalo office today for an efficient, personal approach for all of your transportation needs.
Welcome back. Final segment of Western New York High School Football Weekly. We're going to talk about the top games, Week 8, playoff berths on the line. We'll start Thursday night. Tom, I told you, I don't know if you can get any closer to all or nothing other than what the Williamsville East Flames are facing on Thursday night. They need to score 19 points or more. They do that, they get the first place. Anything less, they're out of the playoffs. They're not even in consideration.
Go from 1 to nothing, right?
1 to nothing.
1 to nothing is what it is. This is going to be a great game, right? The only thing that I really wish was going to happen, that Sansone was going to be at quarterback.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that stinks. It really does. And Sean, we're with you. We really are. We wish you were playing in this one, no doubt. We got a chance to see McKinley play, right? I got a chance to see him up close and personal, so did you, in that McKinley Sweet Home game. They can put up points. They can do it quickly. I've got a chance to see them over the summer. There's no doubt they can put up points. If you're going to get into right now a shootout, both teams we know that can put up points. They really will. It's going to be whose defense is going to make the big stop, because that could be the difference in this game. Because it could turn out to be. Would you be surprised this was a 30-29 game?
No, Kalen Kulik, I was going to mention, threw 3 touchdowns. Junior quarterback stepped in, did a fantastic job in that win last week over Hutch Tech. So he's clearly a capable quarterback in his own right. And, this McKinley team, we saw it last week. They have vulnerabilities, and let's just keep this in mind. They had to go to overtime to beat Sweet Home by 3 points. Williamsville East did beat that team by a touchdown. I know they don't have their quarterback anymore, but there's no reason why this can't be a close game.
And a shootout. I expect points to be put up on the board. But I'll tell you, like I said, the defense that comes up big makes that stop and gives the other team an opportunity to possibly go up by 2 scores could be the difference in this game right here. This, to me, is going to be about defense making stops. And the one who does it is going to be the one who actually comes up big.
All right, so that game, it'll be Williamsville East at McKinley. Will be on our air Thursday night on Western New York Athletics. Our other game on this weekend, big one with playoff implications, Clarence at Jamestown. Jamestown clinches the number 1 seed in Class A1 with a win, but a Clarence win, it causes some issues. It could make things interesting.
Well, it's because it's going to be a 3-way tie. It'll be where Will North had beaten Clarence, right? Mm-hmm. But Jamestown beats Will North, and then Clarence beats Jamestown, so it just turns into one of those passes.
3-way.
We got to go by the points
differential.
And all that.
Basically, Will North would win out in that case because remember this: they only remember that game. Jamestown led Will North by 3 touchdowns. But North got back.
Jamestown. Jamestown led North.
Yeah, and Will North got back in the game, only lost by a point. So
37-36, wasn't that
35-34.
Okay.
But that gives essentially Will North the edge that if Jamestown loses, and now keep in mind, North's got to win against Niagara Wheatfield. If that happens, North would get the top seed in A1 in that one. So an important one there. That will be live on our air Friday night, 7 o'clock, right here on Western New York Athletics. A couple other games going on Friday with important playoff implications. Maryvale, Cheektowaga, Randolph, Portville, and Maritime, South Park. Tom, we'll start with that first game. If you're Maryvale, Frank Wolf's going to write about it in his in our magazine, The Importance of Rivalries. You imagine Maryvale, you're already in the playoffs, but you got Cheektowaga coming, we beat our rival, they're out of the playoffs. That's got to give you a little extra chip on your shoulder.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, there's a lot of implications in this game right here. I don't say a lot when it comes to players. Warburton, get on defense, man. Play some defense in this game. I know you don't want to play defense, but you need to get your team to the playoffs right here. Go play some defense in this one, right? You are a beast. We know what you can do. He may have to play both ways for Cheektowaga to win this one.
This thought just popped in my head. Justice Hill and Cameron Warburton going ahead. Can you imagine what that could look like?
Oh, that would be. I'm going to hear it all the way. I'm going to hear it all the way in Orchard Park at senior night is what I'm going to hear. I'll hear those clashes going all night long. I'm telling you, I do believe that's something that's got to happen. I understand why, but this has got to be a total team effort for Cheektowaga to win this one to be able to get themselves into the playoffs right here.
Yeah, so if Cheektowaga wins, they get the 2 seed, knock Olean out. If Cheektowaga loses, Falconer's the 2 seed, and Olean stays in that one. So our next game is Randolph Portville, number 1 seed on the line in Class D. But Xander Hine and the Randolph Cardinals are going to be hard to beat if you're Portville.
No doubt, but listen, Portville has got a great defense, right? Look at what remember the Franklin-Ellicottville score? It was 2-0 after halftime is what it was, or in the third quarter it was. Both those defenses are very good. This is a good defense, but let me tell you something. Hind is the reason why they're doing so well. But that offensive line is something down there at Randolph, right? That line is really good. The defense is really good. And so far, no one's really been able to test Randolph for an entire game. We've seen it for a half. Can Portville be able to pull this one off? Portville, I know you've been wanting to get into those rankings. I know you've been wanting to prove why you're one of the top teams. Guess what a win right now over Randolph does? It gives you all that respect and more that you're looking for.
All right, our final game Friday, we're going to talk about one with big implications, Maritime South Park. Winner in this one gets the top seed in Class A3, and after doing my calculations, meaning I made a spreadsheet, and I found out if South Park scores 13 points or more, they clinch the number 1 seed. They score a little less than that, there's an opportunity if Jamestown wins by enough, they can take the 1 seed. But right now, the number 1 seed in Class A. The ball's in your court, South Park. Win by 2 touchdowns, and it's yours. But this is not going to be an easy one.
If you're thinking this is an easy one, you're nuts, right? I'll tell you right now. South Park, we already know is going to. They got their quarterback. They got their receivers. They're ready to go. Maritime's been quiet. Everyone's been counting them out, right? They lost that game to Star Point. You haven't heard a peep out of it. I'm going to tell you right now. I'm still going to go. There's 2 people I don't want to bet against. Coach Delaney or Coach Parker. I don't want to bet against either of them right there, right? And you got both of them going head to head. This is going to be a big one. And where you're going to look at, I'm going to look to the trenches, right? Has been a strength for the last couple of years for this Maritime team. And the question will be for South Park, can they give Noah enough time to be able to throw the ball? Or at least for enough for Noah to use some of those legs and to get to the outside, right? There's going to need to be some time here for Noah to get the ball out there to both Rivera and Pagan, right? Be able to get the ball out to them to make something happen. But it all starts right in the trenches. And Maritime, that's been their strength. Can they get that team ready to go and make a run right here? This game is important to Maritime if they're going to get the run and do what we expect out of them year after year.
Yeah, so if Maritime wins, I was kind of running through some of the scenarios. There are lots of things that can happen, but this comes down to Jamestown and South Park. If they win, it's going to come down to how much they win by, and that'll kind of set the top of it up. Of course, we know McKinley can kind of wreck things in A2. But either way, this is going to come down to South Park and Jamestown. If they win, they get a home game, and that McKinley. And I want to point out that McKinley loss to Hamburg really helped Jamestown, because Jamestown at one point was looking like they were going to get the 3rd seed, which you get a first round home game, but the second round you wouldn't be guaranteeing a home game. So they'd have potentially, you're talking about week 9, they would have to travel up from Jamestown to Buffalo to take on maybe a South Park or McKinley. But it looks like Jamestown is going to get 2 home games before the stadium. I'm sure they're very happy about that.
I know, I would be. and they know how hard it is to travel up and down that throughway.
They remember, they went up to Niagara-Wheatfield, and they were actually down early in that game, or actually well into the first quarter. They were down a touchdown or 2, and I wonder how much of that they had to get their legs under them making that long trip, because that's however long as get to Buffalo plus another 40 minutes to make it up to Niagara-Wheatfield.
And all the kids look forward to that stop home, though, right? You got your McDonald's stop, your Wendy's stop along the way, right? But no, this one, should be a great one. And then one more.
Yeah, our last game is St. Francis at Canisius. We saw Franny's defeat St. Joe's 22-0 last week at St. Francis. This time they're going to travel to Stransky Field over in West Seneca to take on the Crusaders. I think we were both at that game. I think that 22-0 score is a bit deceiving. I thought St. Francis was much better than that, and I think, especially when you hear from Coach Smith, I know Mike Badanek talked to him, and we talked to him at halftime. He thought his team underperformed in that one, and that maybe if they don't make, in his eyes, so many mistakes, that could have been a much larger score.
I don't know if I want to say underperformed. I think what he did not like was just the penalties, period. You know what I mean? And that was...
but without those penalties, that could have been a different score.
Correct. And he didn't like the personal foul penalties. Those are the ones that specifically had upset him more than anything. But I got to be honest with you, I was very impressed with St. Joe's defense in that one. St. Joe's, they've really taken the next step, and it was great to see them battle in this game. And they kept it close. It was that defense that kept things close, too, which I was very, very impressed with. But I'll tell you, this Kid-Pendergrass combo, right, is just something to watch, because they both can run the ball and run the ball effectively. This, to me, and I've said it week after week after week after week, to me, the 2 top lines in Western New York are Bennett and St. Francis. But I think maybe the 3rd next line could be Canisius, right? So you're going to see now this head-to-head in the trenches come into play. And the question is, which trench team is going to win this? and be able to do something here. And again, I like the running backs right here. You got to like what you're seeing right now for the passing game of Canisius, right? So we're going to really see kind of two teams go head-to-head in this one. This should be a great one right here. Look to the trench play, because whoever's going to win that, the question is, will that line for Canisius be able to give their quarterback enough time to get the ball out to their wide receivers?
All right, that wraps up the games we're going to talk about. Next, we're going to talk about our Freak of the Week. We were going back. There were a lot of kids in contention. We had what?
Hind, Atkins,
Fry,
absolutely.
You talk about, Amari Jones at Albion.
Bain and Barber right there. Come on, Evans. We just talked about that catch with Evans out there. We talked about Anastasia, the game he's had. Both Joneses for Albion could be in the mix in this one, right? I mean, Geschel had 5 touchdowns for Lackawanna. It was bad. I mean, this was a tough week. There were a lot of big, Harry for Lancaster in the big game, right?
Willie
Barry
had a nice game.
I mean, we can go up and down is what it is, but
Tom, I think I want to let the video announce the winner, though.
Okay, all right. Let's see if our producer's gonna listen.
We pulled the video of our Freak of the Week.
So there it is. You can see that's Hinsdale making his first catch, right? Here's one of his 17 receptions that he breaks the Section 6 record right here. And then we're going to finish it off. Not too many kids are going to be able to kick the field goals along with it. And he kicks this one up through the uprights. And you see the team celebrates as CSP defeats Franklinville-Ellicottville. And you got it. Our Freak of the Week there belongs to Bryce Hinsdale. Boy, what a week this kid had. He did everything, right? And then let's use Dick Gallagher's saying is, I think he did everything but sell popcorn at the stands is what he did, because he did everything for that team, and he accounted for every one of those points.
Yeah, that's right. He accounts for every single point, breaks a Western New York record, and hits the winning field goal in high school. This isn't the NFL where half the games come down to field goals and they just try to set up for 40-yarders. A lot of teams out here don't even have a kicker, let alone one who you'd send out there with time expiring to give your team the win. They've relied on him a lot this year, and he was the Freak of the Week. He put on, and it was an important performance. We mentioned it. That's a game that potentially changes their seeding. It might get them an extra home game, or at least improves their seeding a little bit, maybe a little bit easier opponent in the playoffs. So he showed up big for his team. They have St. Mary's next. Their league schedule is done. So they have St. Mary's next before the playoffs. But again, Bryce Hinsdale certainly doing justice to the legacy his brother left behind.
No doubt about it. But listen, a great week. Listen, now this is it, right? Some of you, there are teams that are going to need to put this on the line, right? You got your chance. There are teams that got a chance to make the playoffs or are going to get knocked out, right? Willie's being one of them. Cheektowaga being another one, right? Even Hutch Tech, right? Whatever it may be. A lot of you've got opportunities to make the playoffs. Now's the time. You've got to make sure you walk off that field and say you left every single thing on the field. Don't come off that field and be a senior and say, if I only did this, what if? Don't do it. Not this week with things on the line. You got too much here on the line that you've got to make sure you bring it home. A lot of guys got the opportunity to do something special. Do it for you, your teammates, and everyone else, and watch the accolades come after that.
You know what? We have a lot of great rivalries this week. I'm going to shout out the Ken East, Ken West rivalry. First time under the lights. So that'll be big for that rivalry. I'll tell this. I'll tell this story. I was a junior at Kenmore East. Probably a lot of you know I went to Kenmore East, played there junior year. We were 0-5, 0-6 going into last game. Kenmore West had won their division. So what happened was before the game, coach told us, because they introduced the team from the goal line, you come up, they said if Kenmore West gets introduced first, they said if Kenmore West crosses the 50-yard line, you don't wait to be called, you go and get them. So what do? They were a little cocky at the time. I think even they would admit it. They just come up dancing, they cross the 50, bam, we go out there, we push them back over the 50. There's a huge picture of it. We were fired up, they weren't ready. East gets their first win, 7-0. And you know what? Coach Harris at the time for Kenmore West, he admitted a year later, because the following year that Kenmore West team went to the stadium, they faced Orchard Park. They said, without that loss the year before to Ken East, that doesn't motivate our guys to get to the stadium, to push the extra level to do it. So that's just a little means like what this rivalry means to them. You throw all the records out the window in this one.
A couple of years ago, I want to say Ken East again.
Similar, yes.
Record, right?
Similar situation. I think West didn't have quite as many wins, but yeah, Kenmore East had no wins, and I was there for that game with Joe Kraus. I think that was 2019, and East won it. So who knows? This would be prime position for Kenmore East to get a win. They had they've had a couple of close ones. They 2-point conversion. By 2-point conversion, they lost to Amherst. They were in a 1-score game with Grand Island. That one went down to the wire. There's no reason why this team can't get a win. We have a story about Owen Davis in our magazine, and you get that first win for Coach Matt O'Malley. That's what this rivalry week is all about.
I want to know who's in charge of the video of Coach Haynes this week, because I know he's going to have some dog bones. I know he's going to have some blue Gatorade.
Hot dogs.
Oh, I don't care what he's got. I better get the video sent to me, whatever Coach Haynes does this week, because you know he's got something in store right there to get his team pumped. I love it. That's what a rivalry game is, what's all about. How about Albie and Medina is going to be another great game,
that was a thriller last year.
I mean, that we already know is going to be a big one, right? You know, you've got the
West Seneca East, West Seneca West.
Yep, NT in Tonawanda, right? Which will be another big one. You've got senior nights playing throughout Western New York. In fact, I will be playing Dad, where I get a chance to have my third senior go through, and the last one. I can't believe it, but I'm getting that old, Francis. But listen, don't regret it, right? You only get a chance to play high school football once. And you got a chance to do something great, go make it happen, right? And then I'll tell you, we'll take care of the recognition part. You do something special, we'll take care of the rest.
All right, I think that will do it. So remember, Thursday, Will East McKinley. Friday, Clarence Jamestown. Both of those games on Western New York Athletics. For our producer, Heidi Gunther, Tom Prince, I'm Francis Beck. Thank you for tuning in to Western New York High School Football Weekly.
Life can be full of surprises, but not always the good kind. That's why we're committed to providing safe, quick, and cost-effective care, and we keep it simple. Just walk in. We're here for you. Learn more today.
With exclusive buyer insights and our 100% money-back guarantee, we're confident we'll find buyers for your home. Howard Hanna. Home happens here.